Welcome to Backyard Bows. Hey, welcome to Backyard Bows. I'm Brandon, and we have another PSE. So we just did the Fortis a couple weeks ago. Check that review out. I actually love that bow. And if you have followed my reviews, you'll know that in 2022, I didn't necessarily love the Evo XF or the Levitate, to be honest. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to get this bow in here, because I definitely wasn't going to spend another $1,700 on the carbon from PSE. Luckily, I had a friend that let me borrow it that was nice enough to kind of let me do a review on it. And I'm excited because, as you guys have known, especially I mentioned it in the Revex from Prime, just because I don't like something one year from a company that, I mean, I might dislike something or it might not be my favorite, and then the next year I might love something that they come out with. So I try to stay neutral, and every year that somebody puts out something, I just keep an open mind about it, and that's kind of right where I'm at with this Mach 34. I've heard tons of good stuff. They've added some new features, which I love, and we'll go over everything. They added a new cam in their 3-cam option, which is kind of PSE fashion. They have multiple different cams for the same platform. And I've always loved that because you get a nice platform that has 3 different feels to the same bow. And pretty much you switch up that engine like we talk about, and you get a whole different feel, draw cycle, shot cycle, hold, everything. So, and I loved the EC2 on the Fortis. I can tell you right now, it's my favorite of all 4 of the cams that I've shot from PSE these past 2 years. The E2, S2, C2, and the EC2. The EC2 was my favorite. That's the brand new cam for this year, and man, it was awesome. This bow, not being mine, came with the S2s, but I like that because now I get to shoot all 4 and have a little bit perspective on each of them. I'll tell you right now, the E2s were my least favorite, and I was forced to shoot the E2s on the Levitate and the Evo XF just because of the draw length options that it allowed. I'm 30 inches, and that was the only cam option that went out to my draw length, so I was kind of forced into doing that. But for $1,700, I wasn't quite sure if the Levitate was worth it to me. And then the Evo XF just wasn't my favorite. Kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. But the Fortis definitely put PSE in a better spot with me. I actually do love the Omen that we did from them too. That was a great speed bow. But let's go ahead, let's dive in. We have the Mach 34. They slimmed up the riser a little bit. Axle to axle is a little different, so 34-inch axle to axle. You have a 6 3/4 inch brace height, which is perfect. 4.6 pounds. The Levitate and the Mach 34 are the exact same weight, and I think it's because they slimmed up the riser, cut down a little bit of weight. Even though they're different axle to axle, they do come in at the exact same. You have 50, 60, 70, 80 pound limb options. These particular cams go from 26.5 out to 30.5. So each cam option has a little bit different draw length, a little bit different IBO. So these come in at 335, which is nice. This cam is pretty much a smaller version replica of the E2, okay? Same egg-shaped, elongated cam. I have a feeling it will draw similar. I'm hoping that this will have a little bit less of a dump there on the end, but I'll tell you right now, with all 4 cams, no matter what, you put them on 90% let off on these PSEs, they dump pretty hard on you. So I'm gonna switch it to 85, and if we need to, we'll switch it to 80 before we go outside with the Freestyle Shoot. So back to the riser. They slimmed it up a little bit. It has a nice gritty feel to it, like sandpaper. I love the grips on these, nice and slender. They did add an integrated rest spot on the back. I'm a solid color guy, but I love this riser being solid. I love camos on it. So the bottomland mossy oak on this is just, man, that's what I would get. If I was to purchase this, I'd go bottomland mossy oak with an EC2 cam. That is a fire bow. But all of the camos look awesome on here because there's no breakup in that camo pattern because it's a solid bow. It's kind of cool. I think they just look really good on here. Some of my favorite limb pockets, if you look up underneath, we always point it out, but there's that little bored out hole. There's a little peg in there, and that keeps those limbs from shifting around. They have one of my favorite kind of cable guards. We've talked about this too. It's like a hybrid. You got the ball bearing rollers, but it is also on a rod. I think this cable guard wears on cables the least out of any bow that we've reviewed. Then you kind of have that normal string stop. They did make some new dampeners that go in between the limbs. They're really nice and soft gelatin-like, but I think they do a good job. And I will say that about the Levitate, that new dead frequency carbon, that was awesome. It was almost dead in your hand. It was a very quiet for a carbon bow. All around, I think they did a good job with that. And no matter what, whether you like the look, because it's an acquired taste, these carbons by PSE, you either love them or you fucking hate them. Just the look of them. But you can't deny how light they are. I mean, you pull that bare bow out of the box. The whole time you're pulling it out, you're like, holy shit. So I think they've done a great job with the actual carbon itself. I have a feeling this will probably be very similar in that dead in hand feel, nice and quiet. We'll run it up against the decibel reader, which we didn't get to do with the Levitate. And then I hate to even mention it, and I'm going to, but that full draw stability technology, I still don't know what the fuck it is. I've talked to reps, I've talked to bow shop owners. The one rep I finally got one answer out of, he was like, it's kind of like the widening of the limb and limb pockets. That's it. I don't, you know, they tell you online all of the different benefits you get from this technology, but they don't tell you what the technology is. Again, yeah, I love feedback. So if somebody can get on here and tell me exactly what it is, that would be great. Otherwise, I'm just going to quit talking about it because I don't know. Let's go to the cams. So you got the 3 cam options, E2, S2, and this year the EC2. Like I said, I would prefer the EC2, a little bit less aggressive. They were nice and smooth. They drop down with 5 feet per second, but to me, that's well worth the difference in how those feel, especially from the E2s. So the S2 E2s both get 335. The EC2s get 330 is what it says on line. And then if you go into the reading section, it says 340. So I was kind of confused about that, but we'll see when we run it into the chronograph. But you have your module system that rotates in 1/2 inch increments from 26.5 out to 30.5. And then you have let off on the back of that, which will adjust from 80, 85 to 90. And then you also have a let off option that you can order differently from 65, 70, and 75. I would say without shooting it, this bow probably feels best, at least the draw cycle in the hold, maybe at like 75% let off. And again, we'll do 90, 85. I'll probably end up switching it to 80 before we step outside. But I've talked about this too, this bus tuning system. This is one of the cleanest shot cycles. I love the way these things set up. And then you have, oh yeah, you have this easy 220 snap shim on these as well, which we saw on the Fortis. So this was the first bow that they actually put it on, but it's just a, you know, an easier shim to get on and off. You can put your bow in a bow press, relieve some of that pressure, they'll pop right off. You got different wish shims that you can tune your bow with. I love that feature as well. That's awesome. Let's go ahead. Let's throw this thing. Let's shoot a couple here inside. We'll do our single shot assessment, and then we'll step outside and we will sling a whole bunch. I feel like this is a bow I'm going to be able to shoot all day. I got it dressed up, or he got it dressed up in this Redline accessories, which this is the first time I'm kind of seeing them in person, and man, they are some great quality for the price. And we'll dive into a little bit more of those later. I will do some reviews on some Redline stuff here eventually when I get some of them in-house myself. But I love that I was able to kind of sample them on this because, man, they are top-notch for a great price. I got the torch sight on here. We got 2 stabilizers. But I love the way they look too. Real nice and clean. Well, let's go ahead. Let's sling a couple. So again, I'm sure you can even see it on camera. These cams just, you know, the E2s and the S2s just dump hard. To be honest, I can't stand that. But, you know, some people, you want a little bit more feet per second. That's kind of the sacrifice that you get. These are a little bit better than the E2s, but they still kind of dump on you. And I got it at 85% let off. I'll probably move it to 80, like I said, which I'll add that 1/2 inch on the draw length if I move it all the way down to that 80% let off. But I think that'll smooth it out a little bit. We'll see when we step outside. But for right now, you know, it has a pretty nice linear transition, and then I guess as I anticipate it more, it's not so bad, just like anything. And then again, this carbon, the dead frequency carbon is awesome. Barely little feeling in your hand. We'll put it up to the decibel, we'll see how quiet it is, but I love the way it feels in your hand. This actually bounces really nice. Very different than the last bows that we've done. I got the Prime Revex where you had that center grip with a lot of the bow underneath. This has a ton of bow above your grip, but it does balance really, really nice. For being a longer axle bow. I like the way it sets up. I mean, that's just nice and smooth. Shot cycle is really clean. I'm excited to see what it gets in the IBO or on the chronograph because I was confused on the line. They had 2 different, maybe it was a typo, but we'll figure out which one is more accurate. But let's shoot one more. I love the way it holds. Has a nice solid back wall. Bubble dials down really nicely, pins dial down. We'll see outside when we do that full draw stall, but this is probably one of my favorite better bows from PSE. So very different feel from the Levitate. I like this one 10 times more. And it's crazy because they look the exact same, but man, there's something about this one just feels so much better to me. I think they did a great job with this one. But let's step outside. Let's do that freestyle shoot. We'll shoot a whole bunch. All right, so on to our freestyle shoot. We're gonna let a ton of arrows go. I only have this thing for the weekend because it's borrowed, so I'm gonna shoot it as much as I can. We'll go bore 30, and then we got 2 bucks at 35. So went down to 80% let off, definitely smoothed it out a little bit, which is nice. And I'm gonna say one more thing about, I know the outside, we reserve it for shooting, I'll talk less, but one more thing that I thought about. If you go into a bow shop and you pick up any PSE bow and you test shoot it and you say, you know, let's say it's not your favorite, you know, remember that there's 2 other cam options. So just remember what cam option that you tested in the shop, and just remember that the other 2 could feel drastically different. So kind of take that into consideration too. You know, you go test a Mach 34 with, let's say, the E2 cams like me, and I didn't necessarily like them. Remember that this might be a completely different feeling bow with those EC2 cams, so keep that in mind. We'll go bucks. Oh man, that's a dead deer. We'll put 1 on each of these, and then we'll step over to gazebo. We'll shoot a whole bunch more from over there. But it's crazy how I love let-off options. I love that you can adjust your let-off. Some people have to hold at less weight because of shoulder injuries, so they kind of sacrifice for that dump you might get, or you know, a little bit of sacrifice in the draw cycle. And then if you really like a smooth pull, which I do, a nice linear steady pull in case you you do have a close deer, you know, something that's not going to be jerky, real seamless pull. I love that. So I just love when you can adjust. Everybody's different. But man, this is on the button. Let's go over to the other side and we'll shoot some longer range shots. All right, so now we'll run through our 3D range from over here. We have tons of 3D targets going from 20 yards all the way up to 50 yards, 5-yard increments. And I will shut up and we will sling some arrows. I love the hold on this. Very nice. The draw cycle has smoothed out some. My anticipation for that hump, you know, I kind of just glide over it now. But it sets up quickly. It's nice and stable. I like the back wall. I would say it's probably one of my favorite PSE bows I have shot. I don't mind the S2 cams. I would love to shoot one with those EC2 cams. All right, we're gonna go to that black bear, which is at 40, and then we'll do a full draw stall. I think, all right, so now we got full draw stall, 1 minute hold. We'll place a shot on the little black bear. And again, I think this is, I mean, you can tell it's a nice stable bow. I think this is gonna be, has a great back wall. I think this will be an easier hold, and I think it'll be a little bit more effortless to place a nice shot after a minute, but we'll see. So I think, surprisingly, throughout the entire minute, the pins don't move around a ton on you. You know, they kind of, you know, they kind of stay right in there. Got a little, you put a little more effort into it towards the end, but the whole time the bow stayed pretty stable. All right, so now up to the elk at 50. I'm gonna say I love the stability of this bow. In performance, that's what kind of factors in the most, and this has just a really nice back wall, sets up nice, balance is nice. The shot cycle feels really good. I mean, just, you kind of just, there's no second guess to where these arrows are going, you know, it's just a very effortless shot process. I love it. I think stability wise, this is probably one of the better bows that we've had in here. Performance, I usually don't go over a 9, but if I can give something a 9.2, I think this would be it. This is a fantastic Man, that is awesome. Feels great. All right, so we're gonna run it through the G2 now for the speed test. I got the same arrow we use each week. So it's a 300 spine full metal jacket, weighs 500 grains. We reset everything up with the 85% let off, 30-inch draw at 70 pounds. And we'll do all of our speed tests the exact same. And this arrow is what's gonna factor into the grade, which is a 10 feet per second increment is kind of our grading scale. And then we'll shoot 2 other arrows. We'll shoot a lighter arrow and a heavier arrow to kind of show you a little bit of difference. So that's 283. If it stays in the 280s for the first 3 shots, we'll give it an 8 out of 10. If it fluctuates and maybe we kind of teeter that too high 270s, 280, we'll shoot 5, take the average. But I think this is probably gonna climb just a couple feet per second, stay right in those 280s. So that's 285, which is awesome. That's my perfect arrow speed. This is the arrow, you know, probably one of the exact arrows I hunted with all last season. 500 grains. Farthest shot I took, I think, was like 47 yards. I mean, these were just, you know, you got a slight 1 degree helical on the just blazer vanes I had on them. I mean, these arrows were perfect. And I think this next season I decided I'm gonna go down in arrow weight just a hair, but I loved hunting with these last year. Ooh, so that's just where we're gonna shoot these extra 2 shots. You got 279. Well, potentially extra 2, but if it gets 1 more in the 280s, we'll give it that 8 out of 10. 285. Okay, so it gets the 8 out of 10. Now we'll shoot a slightly heavier arrow, same arrow, 300 spine full metal jacket, but this one has a brass insert and it weighs 550 grains. A little bit more weight towards the front end, little heavier arrow for those of you who like to kind of hunt with a little bit more kinetic energy. 264. And then now we got a lighter arrow. So it's a 400 spine full metal jacket, and this one weighs 440 grains. That's 302. That's awesome. So a little bit of variety for you. Let me turn that around and we will do that sound test, which I thought from the beginning this was a nice and quiet bow, so we'll see. So now on to the sound test. We got 3 identical arrows. We'll shoot 3 shots. I love that we added this in there. At the beginning, I was so unsure. All the readings were the same for like the first 5 bows, just very, very similar. And then we finally got the Revex from Prime in here, and that was significantly lower at like 87 decibels, where the rest of them were at like, you know, low 90s. So after seeing that, you know, the first arrow, the first bow that was like a lot different, then I was like, okay, I love that we added this in there, because our ears are efficient, but not nearly as efficient as some of these tools that we have today. So I like that we can see a comparison. My guess is that this is probably on the quieter side, maybe right below the average, 91.7. Yeah, so I think the average is 92 to 94. So this is right under. $91.2. I think I Robin Hood that arrow. Shit. Another arrow down. We'll shoot 1 more. $91.4. Awesome. So right in there in that, you know, on the lower side, but still kind of right in there in the average sound. So give me a second, I'll get outside and we'll give it a grade. All right, so first, I love the changes that we made with the grading. And I think it really is going to play out perfectly with this bow and the grade it ends up getting, and all the adjustments we made from 22 to 23. Some of it being feedback from you guys. I took all of it into consideration. We tweaked some things, we learned, we grew, and now I think our grading is just, I feel good about it, and I think it's like spot on. So right from the beginning, we do 10 feet per second increments for every point. So anywhere between 280 to 289 is an 8 out of 10. If you get a 300 feet per second, which we've yet to do in year 23, you get the full 10 out of 10. So it gets 8 out of 10 to start. That's a great grade. I've told you guys that from the beginning. with my 500 grain arrow, anything, if you can get 280 feet per second or up, man, you're in the money, especially with whitetail hunting. That is a perfect speed anywhere between 20 and 40 yard shots. That's like the speed that I look for. If it's hitting 280s, I'm happy. Then we'll go to the durability, quality. I gave it a 10 out of 10. I love their dead frequency carbon. For as light as this is, for as strong as this is, between their limb pockets, these smaller cams, the S2s that are smaller in size, I don't think you're as susceptible to kind of bending and warping those cams as you would the E2. Which they stick out so much farther. But I love this. This setup right here deserves a 10 out of 10. This is really high quality, very well made. And then we go to appeal. Again, I talked about this. It's kind of an acquired taste. You either love them or you hate them. So I just went right in there with an 8 out of 10. It's not my favorite look. Again, I think the bottomland, mossy oak bottomland on this I think that would make it for me. And I'd put that in the field. These just aren't my style, again, so that's why I love that we have so many different companies and so many different bows. Everybody can pick and choose what they want, but it's not necessarily for me. And then we go to the technology. To be honest, the technology on this is very simple. I love that we're being able to have let-off adjustments. More and more companies are factoring multiple let-off adjustments in there. I love that. I think the dead frequency carbon is a nice touch for the technology. Carbon in general, but I think the entire bow itself is kind of right in there in the low, kind of midsection for technology. It's not anything stands out that's crazy to me. A lot of the stuff that we've seen on other bows. I do love the ability for those snap spacers, shims. I mean, that's a cool touch too, and I like anything where they make it more convenient for us, but I gave it an 8 out of 10 on technology. And then, like I mentioned, I don't think I'm ever gonna give anything a 10 out of performance. But if I could give something a little bit more, so this isn't going to factor in the grade, but it's just like an honorable mention, I'd give this thing a 9.2 in performance. I mean, this platform was a breeze to shoot. I mean, just so comfortable, so consistent. I could see this being used in 3D archery, hunting. I mean, it's such a versatile bow. So 9 out of 10, and then it gets to make up 0 on the price tag. So this is another thing that we changed. 0 to 500, you get to make up 3, 500 to 1,000, you get to make up 2, 1,000 to 1,500, you get to make up 1 point. So kind of make up bonus points. The budget bows get hit pretty hard. So we always like to give them a little bit more makeup point factor in that price tag. Where this, you're paying $1,700. This should be this should get 10s across the board in my eyes for the price tag. So you don't get to make up any points. So we got 44 times by 2, you got 88 out of 100. I think this is the best, most accurate score that I've given to date. I just feel so good about that score. I think 88 out of 100, fantastic bow from PSE. PSE's, any bitter taste in my mouth I had about some of those bows from last year has completely gone away with the Fortis and the Mach 34. Absolutely love this bow. I couldn't speak higher on it. And if you have the money to spend on something like this, you're getting your money's worth through and through. So thanks for watching. See you next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, hit that like button, leave us a comment. I love interaction. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We have so much more to come. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook for updates of anything else that we're going to review. If there's something that you're interested in, hit those links below and check them out. And make sure, no matter what your setup is, what bow you're shooting, get your reps in on the daily. We'll see you next week.